What do you serve and from where? In this video, I'll talk about the new moon at 4 degrees of Virgo of August 27, 2022. So let's get practical and get things done. Keep watching until the end to know 3 things to pay attention to this moon cycle. Hello, this is Esther Ciurana from Awakening with the Stars. And first of all, remind you, as always, that these are not predictions. This is not predictive astrology, which I find quite disempowering, but my interpretations of themes and topics to pay attention to this month until the next new moon in Libra. With Leo, we came in contact with our truth and our need of change to align with that truth, but also our resistances. So now with Virgo, it's time to commit and follow through on a daily basis with our habits, getting back to work without forgetting the joy of playing the game of life that Leo represents. Leo talks about our creative talents and where we shine. And it's like Virgo tells us that these talents don't make any sense unless we put them in service to something that goes beyond us. So we are bringing this truth we came in contact with, our light, our potential, to the physical, to practical use, to the everyday. And the first thing this moon would ask us is, what do you serve? Do you serve only your ego, or do you serve from your soul? And after the sign of the king, we find the most humble sign, Virgo, which is all about others' needs, because we are shifting together, not alone. And it's very symbolic because Virgo in its high frequency has to do with that. It has to do with the capacity to subordinate or to surrender to our divinity, to the part of us that is innocent, that is pure, but pure not in a sense of being a saint, but being unconditionally loving to our most human parts. And so I wanted to address some distortions on the nature of service, whatever you do to serve. Like, there's many ways, there's not only one way to be a light worker, for example. You can do it from anything you're doing or anywhere, as long as you do it from this most divine part that has this pure intention or unconditionality. And Virgo also has to do with embodied light, which is enlightenment at the end, because we all are light beings already. But enlightenment would only refer to those who embody fully that light, that we kind of mask, putting our self-defense mechanism on top, which would be our egos that cover it. But under each one of us, there is this divinity. And so it's about the capacity to see it as well. And there are 2 ways to serve. And these are very well summarized by Einstein's quote, there are only 2 ways to live your life. One is as though nothing is a miracle. The other is as though everything is a miracle. And so if it's not about what we do, but where we do it from, this can be a bit tricky for compassionate helpers or caretakers, which Virgo rules, as well as anything related to health and our jobs and our daily lives, our routines. And so the first way to serve would be, which is very common, saying, poor thing, I'm going to take care of it. I'm going to rescue it. Or him or her. And when we do that, we actually reduce the other and stop seeing their divinity as a sovereign being that, for whatever reason, they chose to create that situation, even if we don't understand. And we attempt to help them from a position of power, like of control. And we actually make the other need us. And we are kind of reducing them and not seeing their capacity to heal themselves, to take care of themselves. And that would be kind of the lower frequency of Virgo, which would be separating the human and the divine through perfectionism and criticism, seeing only what Einstein said in the quote, like nothing is a miracle. only seeing the flaws or the humanity of it, or in animals as well. But when we only see flaws in something or someone, we are not seeing them. We are not seeing their truth. We are only seeing our own distortions, not theirs. That's why when we judge, our judgments tell more about ourselves than about the others, because they give information about what glasses we are using to filter the way we see reality, our perspective. And so the only way to see the truth of someone, of something, is through the heart. Like with this capacity of seeing the miracle in it, no matter the costume it's wearing. Because everything is God in a mask. Everything is divine. And if you don't see so, if you choose to only see what's wrong with it, you're not seeing its truth, but only your own projections on them, your own projections of imperfection on them. But this is something all of us engage in at some point, and instead of suppressing it, it's just very useful also to see when we to realize when we do it, and see what filters we are using, what distortions are there, to be able to clear them in ourselves. And so I invite you to not diminish others or let others diminish you through these glasses that are distorting divinity. And I really like a video which, when I had my awakening, I used to listen to all the time, called Be Divine by Neil Donald Walsh, the author of Conversations with God. And I'll leave the link below. It's from Embody, in case you want to see it, because it's a good reminder of this divinity that is in all of us. And so the other way to serve is having present this divinity, recognizing it in all. And this is a much more aligned way to serve, because sometimes someone is asking you for help, and there's nothing wrong with that, because that's how we make most progress together, not separate. But we can help without first having to kind of reduce others and make them need us somehow, trying to have control of the situation. And with this, we come in contact with Virgo polarity, which would be the full moon we'll have in Pisces. And this reminds me a little bit of the movie, of one of my favorite movies, which is The Dark Knight, where we can see the Batman and the Joker representing very exaggeratedly the order and the chaos. And the idea here is that the fight could go on forever if we polarize ourselves too much in one extreme or the other. And it's important to be able to see all these polarities playing out on the outside and recognizing their extremes from these two energies, and that each one of us has the capability of uniting them inside of us through our hearts and collapsing them. Because it's not about who wins, the order or the chaos, but about finding unity between them, because they are two sides of the same coin. And it is related also to concepts from Freud, which is Eros and Thanatos, which would be the pulse to live and the pulse to die that we all have. Like Virgo would have to do a lot with taking care of our bodies, our health, but it can get to the obsessive extreme where everything has to follow a certain order, and if something is not in its place, we freak out. And this is also related to transitions, because it would be like, it represents the body, so it would be like when we incarnate the birth, we go from this infinite being into one individual. And they say actually that it's more difficult to incarnate than to die, because it represents going from infinite to limited, right? And also through out-of-body experiences. Like, I have a friend who is a doctor, which is a very Virgo profession, and she also does Chinese medicine, and she was explaining me that there is a way to connect the meridians to leave the body, and she tried once and she left, and it was very hard for her to come back, because It's this thing going from being able to experience anything to coming back to here. But we are here for a reason, and it's important to honor our bodies and to take care of this vehicle as well, to fulfill our missions here. And so these are simply polarities. It's not about getting lost in one or the other, like getting more destructive, not taking care of ourselves or our bodies, or getting obsessed about health and the diet and that everything is in order, and having control of things that sometimes we cannot control, but about finding this unity in the center, which is the divinity. Because if we go in one direction, the more control we try to have, sometimes the more chaos we find outside, and the more chaotic we are, we can also find like to controlling the outside, which are part of the illusion of the mind and how this game works, game of mirrors, but inverted ones. And so the key is to remember you are divine and unite these polarities in you, because divinity would represent everything, and everything contains all possibilities. And so it's up to us to find order in the chaos and chaos in the order, yin yang, and collapse it again into one. And of course, to live our daily lives, we'll have a little bit of both, but as long as we remember that they all come from the one, we won't get lost in this game, and we'll be more able to enjoy it. Watch my interview with Kensho about out-of-body experience if you haven't watched it yet. And keep tuned for more videos about moon cycles, spiritual awakening, reviews of spiritual books that helped me on my journey, and more interviews. I recently published my new website. Reach out if you want a reading of your birth charts or another astral chart. Hit the like button if you got value. Subscribe and leave your comments below. Remember, you are the creator, so choose your interpretation wisely. And I'll see you in the next video.